Hey everybody, Gary here with Pow Music, and that was the intro to Lenny that Stevie Ray Vaughan played at the Live in Tokyo concert in 1985. I'm just going to freeze myself for a second to say that I didn't realize until after I made this lesson that this is the same intro as Riviera Paradise, except slowed down and slightly different, and then he adds a few more chords to get into Lenny. So if you learn this and then go to learn Riviera Paradise, you'll be in good shape, because that one's a lot faster, but it's the same stuff. As always, if you want the tab, the numbers on the lines with the notation on top, playable tab, GPX files, secret songster link where you can play it online without having to download anything. That's all available to Pow Music patrons, and the link is below. So this intro might as well be on a jazz record. All sorts of jazzy stuff going on here. Lenny in itself is one of his jazzier tunes, but this intro in particular, I wanted to dissect. I know there's tons of lessons on Lenny on YouTube, but I haven't seen any on this intro, and when I heard the intro, my ears just lit up. It was well known that Stevie was a big fan of Kenny Burrell, Wes Montgomery. You see him doing a lot of the, Wes Montgomery style octaves. He covered Kenny Burrell, so it was clear that he was a big jazz fan. But in my estimation, he just had so much momentum in his blues world, but you could tell that he was trying to bring in a lot of this jazz stuff, and he was probably listening to it, practicing it, and just kind of gradually bringing some of that stuff into what he was doing. So to me, this was like, man, he's really been working on his jazz chops. Like, these are some serious jazz chords.
You can continue Gary's music theory rant at 13 minutes and 47 seconds, but now, the step-by-step lesson segment.
So Stevie's tuned down a half step to E flat. I'm in standard tuning just to make things easier, but once you learn it from me in standard, you could always tune down a half step to play along with the Live in Tokyo recording. So starts out with this ringing E note right here, and then he plays a series of minor seventh chords, starting with a D minor 7, and there's a few different ways that you could play this. Stevie zoomed out, so I can't tell which way he's doing, but knowing his technique with the thumb over, I'm guessing he's going like this. And he's going from this D minor 7 to a D minor 9 right there. Just kind of on and off from the root to the 9, like that. So the way we play this chord is basically you're just barring all the strings on any one fret except for the A string. So in order to not get the A string, we need to mute out the A string. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Then mute out the A with the tip of your first finger and wrap your thumb around to get the root. Or use your third finger, mute out the A with the tip, and take your second finger and put it on the root like this. That's how I originally learned the chord, studying with a jazz teacher. Then we're just going to walk it down from D to a C to an A sharp, and then we go to a B7 chord, which is the 5 of the E chord, but it's a B13, so that means it's like just a regular 7th chord, but we add the 13, which is also the 6th scale degree, but in the context of a chord we call it the 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the 5 chord of E. Now we could either play it like this, or again with that thumb over, which is what I did, and then bar the second finger over the 6th fret, 2nd and 3rd string, to add a little more tension. So that would be a B7 sharp 5. Just to give it some added tension. And then this awesome chord. Ooh, love that one. Anytime you can get the open strings in there, it sounds great. And so what we have here is just an E minor, add 9. Here's the 9. And what sounds nice is we have this half step, right? From this 9 to the minor 3rd, which is the open G string. So that's what gives it that dissonance. just want to make sure these fingers don't get in the way of the open strings. So we got the pinky on the 7th fret of the A, first finger on the 4th fret of the D, and everything else open. And then he doesn't play the high E until after. So it's like... Then we go back to this A sharp, minor 7, with the, and then to the 9. And then he does this little melody thing. Now this is a tritone substitution here to the B6 chord. So from the B6 chord, a tritone substitution is basically when you play the dominant 7 chord that's a half step up as a substitute for the regular dominant chord, and that's what he's doing. So he's playing a C13 going down to the B6. And so after he does that, without the root note. Now I try to keep everything ringing out there with this barred. So and then suddenly things feel much more uplifting when we hit this B major. And that's kind of, now we're getting into Lenny, where we're starting to hear, oh, maybe he's about to play Lenny, right? Because this chord is in Lenny. And then from there, we take that same B6 shape, move it up to D. So earlier we played D minor, right? That intro was very kind of atonal. Lots of whole steps, sounded like the whole tone scale. I think it's friggin' awesome that Stevie came up with it. I have a feeling that his lack of music theory knowledge made him just follow his instincts, and he created something very sophisticated. So yeah, then we just move up this major 6 shape from the B to the D, and then C major 7. So we went from all those minor chords to now all these major chords. Now this chord is probably the hardest chord of all of them here, because you have to do this line. It's easy this way without the root note, and I barely audibly hear the root note. I think a lot of times Stevie played the root but didn't necessarily hit it. He always had his thumb there in case he hit it, and sometimes it's less than audible, sometimes it's audible. Now the main technique here is just muting. So Stevie's always muting out this A string, or any string he has to. Stevie was a muting master, where he can really be aggressive with his strumming, but you only hear certain notes because he's muting out all the others. So with these chords, you just want to make sure you're muting the high E and the A with the flesh of your fingers. Okay, now on this chord, first he plays the major 7. Then he makes this 5 go to a flat 5 or a sharp 4, and the 4 is the 11, so we can say C major 7 sharp 11. And then he makes the 3 go down to a 2, so then it's a sus chord, C major 7 sus 2 sharp 4 or flat 5. And he just goes from like that, and then comes to this chord, which is the main chord of Lenny. But instead of playing the root, he plays the 5th in the bass. So still not quite giving us that home feeling. This chord actually might be the most difficult. So he might be playing it like this, because he had probably bigger hands than me, with the thumb over, but I find it much easier to do it like this. So I've got 6, second finger, first finger, third finger, fourth finger barring over here, skipping over the A string. Then he comes up to here, that 6 shape again, the main one of the song, and brings it up to E. So this is the 1 chord. So these, the last 3 chords are all E major chords of some sort. And then it's an E power chord with harmonics. So he hits the low E and hits those top 2 harmonics. And then the... Now I hear a little bit of that, so I think he upstrums that first note to get that. Now the rest of it, there's tons of online lessons. I'll probably make my own full Lenny lesson, but I want to kind of get the whole thing down. I want to be able to play the entire thing, really study up on some of the things Stevie did before I make a lesson, because I don't want it to just be another general Lenny lesson. I want to give you like lots of the things that he's doing. Like I want to get all those things, like the... So this is the kind of thing where you're going to want to find what technique works best for you with the thumb over, or having more classical oriented as opposed to blues oriented. There's advantages to both. I think it's good to be able to do both. Sometimes the thumb will allow you to do things you can't do otherwise, just gives you an extra digit to work with. And sometimes I think it makes the hands kind of lack the agility to really move around if you're constantly doing this. So it's all about the context of what you're playing.
And now, the full music theory rant.
It was well known that Stevie was a big fan of Kenny Burrell, Wes Montgomery. You see him doing a lot of the, Wes Montgomery style octaves. He covered Kenny Burrell, so it was clear that he was a big jazz fan. But in my estimation, he just had so much momentum in his blues world, but you could tell that he was trying to bring in a lot of this jazz stuff, and he was probably listening to it, practicing it, and just kind of gradually bringing some of that stuff into what he was doing. So to me, this was like, man, he's really been working on his jazz chops. Like, these are some serious jazz chords, the tritone substitution, some real interesting stuff I don't even know how to explain theoretically. He just really created a kind of harmonic tension by doing a lot of these whole step movements. He starts off like this is less of a theory functional thing as just moving in whole steps. The whole tone scale is sometimes used in jazz. It's not necessarily in any key, it's just when you move in whole steps, It has a very mysterious, unresolved kind of a sound. And that's what Stevie's doing here. He's just doing all these whole step movements. Right? But then interspersed are these 5 to 1s, starting with this one. So we got the 5 of the E minor to the E minor. And then we got the 5, and then the end of the next phrase is a tritone substitution, which acts like a 5 of the B into the B major. And the tritone sub is just when you go up a half step from where you want to resolve to and play a dominant 7 chord. In the blues, there is some harmonic sophistication, especially the artful mixture of major and minor. Like this riff right here, he's mixing major pentatonic with minor pentatonic. This is major pentatonic. And this is minor pentatonic. And here you got a riff like this. Major pentatonic at the end there, but that's all minor pentatonic. So to all the people that say, Stevie just played the same basic blues over and over, no, definitely not. He mixed in a lot of fancy stuff into his playing, including this. But Stevie didn't touch people on such a deep level because he was trying to be fancy. Stevie was just a guy that took his heart, put it on a musical platter, and said, dig in. All right, everybody, I hope this lesson was helpful. As always, if you want the tab, the numbers on the lines with the notation on top, playable tab, GPX files, secret Songster link where you can play it online without having to download anything. That's all available to PAL Music patrons, and the link is below. As you're probably aware, these videos I make take a long time to create. I'm always committed to quality and creating innovative resources that demystify the fretboard, help you learn more efficiently, and understand the context of all the things that you're learning. If you want to support this channel, you could do so for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/palmusic. I also host twice weekly small group video lessons where you could join by video. We could interact face to face. It's a cool little community, so check it out, and I hope to see you there. All right, everybody, thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you had a great time with this lesson. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment if you liked it. Click the like button. If you want to see more lessons like this, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next lesson. Happy playing. Before I go, I just want to say thank you to all of the current PAL Music patrons for your ongoing support, and a special thanks to Cam Chernachan, Robert McCain, and William Spencer, who are 3 of my higher level patrons at patreon.com/palmusic. Happy playing, and I'll see you guys next time.